Hello and welcome to Brilliant POV. Every day, people from all over the world make the difficult decision to leave their homes and embark on a journey to the United States. They come seeking safety, opportunity, and a better life for themselves and their families. But what happens when they arrive at our borders? Our migrant policy has a profound impact on the lives of real people, and it's time we take a closer look at the human consequences of these policies. The U.S. has a moral obligation to provide asylum to refugees and protect the human rights of all individuals, including migrants. This argument is based on the belief that the U.S. has a duty to help those who are fleeing persecution, violence, and other dangerous conditions in their home countries. Some advocates for this position argue that the U.S. has a long history of providing a safe haven for those in need, and that this tradition should continue. Migrants, especially those who are undocumented, contribute significantly to the U.S. economy and should be granted a pathway to citizenship. This argument acknowledges that many migrants, particularly those who are undocumented, perform low-wage jobs that are essential to the U.S. economy. Some proponents of this position argue that providing a pathway to citizenship for these individuals would allow them to fully contribute to society and pay taxes, rather than living in the shadows. Strict immigration policies and border security measures are necessary to protect the nation from terrorism and crime. Those who support stricter immigration policies often argue that they are necessary to protect the country from terrorism and crime. Some proponents of this position argue that terrorists and criminals may try to enter the U.S. through its borders, and that stricter policies are needed to prevent this. The U.S. should prioritize the reunification of families separated by immigration policies. This argument emphasizes the importance of keeping families together and the potential negative impacts on children and other family members when they are separated. Some advocates for this position argue that the U.S. should prioritize reuniting families when making decisions about deportation and other immigration policies. The U.S. should implement a guest worker program to meet the demand for seasonal labor in industries such as agriculture. This argument acknowledges that many industries, particularly agriculture, rely on seasonal labor from foreign workers. Some proponents of a guest worker program argue that it would provide a legal pathway for these workers to enter the U.S. and fill these labor needs, while also protecting their rights and ensuring that they are not exploited. The U.S. should invest in economic development and aid in countries of origin to reduce the push factors that drive migration. This argument suggests that addressing the root causes of migration, such as poverty and lack of economic opportunity, could help reduce the number of individuals who feel compelled to leave their home countries. Some proponents of this position argue that the U.S. should invest in economic development and aid in countries of origin as a way to address these issues. The U.S. should adopt a more lenient policy towards migrants who were brought to the U.S. as children, often referred to as dreamers. This argument is often made in reference to individuals who were brought to the U.S. illegally as children and have grown up in the country. Some advocates for this position argue that these individuals, who may not have had a choice in coming to the U.S., should not be punished for the actions of their parents and should be granted a pathway to citizenship. The U.S. has a responsibility to address the root causes of migration, such as conflict, persecution, and poverty, rather than just addressing the symptoms. This argument suggests that addressing the underlying issues that drive migration is a more effective way to address the issue in the long term. Some proponents of this position argue that the U.S. should focus on addressing these root causes, rather than simply trying to deter or prevent migration. Stricter immigration policies and border enforcement have resulted in human rights abuses and should be reformed. Some critics of stricter immigration policies argue that they have led to human rights abuses, such as the separation of families, the detention of individuals in inhumane conditions, and the deportation of individuals to countries where they may face persecution or danger. These critics argue that these policies should be reformed in order to respect the human rights of migrants. The U.S. should prioritize the integration and assimilation of migrants into American society. This argument suggests that the U.S. should work to facilitate the integration and assimilation of migrants into American society, rather than viewing them as outsiders or as a burden. Some proponents of this position argue that this could be achieved through policies such as providing language classes and cultural orientation programs, as well as promoting acceptance and inclusion in communities. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.